All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Arizona Water for All Network's monthly webinar series. My name is Nieves. I am the Arizona Wash Program Specialist at Water for People, and I work very closely with the Arizona Water for All Network. The network's overall goal is to advance knowledge of regional water challenges by fostering new collaborations and connecting people with resources. Together, we can contribute to a stronger and lasting water solution for all communities in Arizona. And this monthly webinar series was created to ensure that we have these avenues of connection. This is a very casual chat, so feel free to eat your lunch, drink water, ask questions as we listen in. And this month's webinar is a very exciting one. We are continuing with a second round to our Alumni Showcase, where our guest speakers are past participants of the Southern Arizona Water Leadership Institute, which is also known as WLI. We have with us Ali Alvarez from the 2025 cohort, who is a community educator based out of Rio Rico, Arizona. She teaches sustainable nutrition and cooking classes while also teaching community Spanish classes focused on local dialects and cultures. Thanks to WLI, she works with the Friends of the Santa Cruz River to run their social media to foster community engagement and educate about local issues. She also participates in their citizen science group, River Watch, to monitor the water quality of our binational river, the Santa Cruz River. She'll share a bit more with us about her journey to WLI during participating in the cohort and how that has shaped her trajectory since being part of the cohort. We also have with us Cheyenne Modoc from the 2024 cohort, who is a doctoral candidate in the School of Geography, Development, and Environment at the University of Arizona in Tucson. His dissertation focuses on environmental governance in river deltas. So they'll be sharing about how they applied to the WLI as a curious international student, completely new to Arizona's water landscape and the regional nonprofit world. And participating in the program helped them walk away with two lessons that have really stayed with them throughout their journey since. First was getting to go to the Nogales wastewater treatment plant, and also how the late Dr. Celso Villegas inspired them with a reminder that our academic work must actually serve the community. And so they'll also be sharing some photos and stories from their field work on the impacts of upstream legacy water diversions infrastructure on the Ganges River. We also have Kat and Bryn with us from the 2025 cohort. They are both involved in the River Resource Share, a mutual aid collective born after participating in the Water Leadership Institute, um, as an effort to address the access gaps for our neighbors along the Santa Cruz River here in the Tucson area. They'll both expand on how the River Resource Share has shaped, their experience and what they care about since joining the Water Leadership Institute. And a little bit about them is that Bryn is very excited about how community connections um, help to be a part of new and old ways of operating in our societies and making sure that we're challenging structures and expectations for what we value as success. He has spent a decade in the hospitality industry, receiving degrees in culinary arts and science, as well as working various roles across restaurants and bakeries. And he believes that growing and making food is a hugely powerful way of connecting forces, and they really enjoy being able to introduce people to new ideas through their experiences. And a bit about Kat is that she currently works at Monzo Elementary School and School Garden Workshop as the ecology teacher. She works with students in the school gardens, practicing science education, food literacy, and social emotional learning. Kat also helps organize with Reconciliación en el Río, doing restoration and education through community events such as trash cleanups, art making, and invasive species removal. Before this, she studied plant communities along the banks of the Santa Cruz River as a graduate student at the University of Arizona. So I'm very excited to have our alumni here to showcase who they are and where they're going. I will give a very brief overview of WLI before handing it off to our guest speakers. This will be a very brief overview, so if you're interested in hearing a slightly more in-depth explanation of the Water Leadership Institute, I highly recommend checking out our June webinar. So the Water Leadership Institute, it really focuses on frontline communities across the world, frontline communities continue to face these serious barriers to accessing safe, clean, and affordable drinking water. And they also continue to be underrepresented in water decision making. So the Leadership Institute was born as an effort to bring together everyday community members to have that resource sharing, learning from local leaders, and becoming leaders themselves in their own communities when it comes to stewarding water. The most recent cohort was guided through the question of what is my relationship to water? And our four tenants were looking at this question through a historical context, WASH pathways, which stands for water access, sanitation, and hygiene, transboundary resilience, and defining what leadership can mean, because it has a lot of definitions and there's no one way to be a leader. And we need a variety and diversity approach to what leadership can mean. Towards the bottom of this slide, you'll see a few logos, and these are some of the main organizations helping to steer the Water Leadership Institute here in the Arizona region, such as Reconciliación en el Río Santa Cruz, Environmental Defense Fund, the Arizona Water for All Network, and Water for People. And why is this important in our region? On the left, you'll see a map of the Colorado River, and in the middle, you'll see a map of the Santa Cruz River. This river is where we spent most of our time, and the numbers on the right-hand side show the different areas that we met each time that we had a session in our recent cohort, just to ensure that we had a holistic approach to getting familiar with the river, also getting to see where some of our participants felt most closely to the river to show that we're all connected along this river basin and have a lot to learn from each other. And there's a lot of context that we can really benefit from being there in person when it comes to talking about water leadership. I will now happily hand it off to our first speaker, Ali.
Thank you so much, Nieves. And it's so great to see other alumni here. I'm excited to hear about what everybody's up to. Again, my name is Ali Alvarez, and I felt really lucky to find the Water Leadership Institute when I did. I had previously in other places that I lived have been involved in the community and local advocacy efforts, but I was struggling to find that here in Rio Rico. Rio Rico is a border community and it's very rural. And so I felt like I was searching for more opportunities to become more involved regarding environmental conversation and environmental justice. And so it just felt like perfect when I came across the Leadership Institute, and I didn't know what to expect, but it really was really impactful, both personally, professionally, and it really gave me those links to community groups that I was really searching for. Um, and so something that first and foremost, I felt more connected to just the issues going on here locally. I was kind of sad to realize that I wasn't really aware of local environmental issues. I kept very up to date internationally and globally, and then kind of realized, wow, I don't know much about this place that I've grown up in and that I've lived in. And so that was really great to just have the experience of meeting people in real life on the front lines doing this work in Tucson, in Nogales, and in the communities in between. And so there were many impactful experiences I had here, but one of the ones that stuck with me was meeting the Friends of the Santa Cruz River. We went to Tubac and we met on the river. And that was just really eye-opening for me because I didn't know they existed. They're a group that does advocacy for the river and tests the water quality through a citizen science initiative that they have. And it turned out they were looking for volunteers, and I was looking for somewhere to become more involved. And so through the Friends of the Santa Cruz River, we go every month. We test the water. We also make observations on the river. For example, parts of the river have dried up right now, and the group has been contacting other agencies to kind of figure out what's going on there. And so that's just one example of feeling more connected to this place and kind of being part of that initiative that noticed that there's parts of the river that are drying up right now and kind of trying to figure out why. I also do their social media. The people in the Friends of the Santa Cruz River are amazing. They have a really long history of making really impactful change here in conserving the river. But they were looking for more volunteers, people who were younger. And so it felt really great to be able to fill that gap that they needed. And I post bilingual videos about the river, about how to access trails, about picking up our trash. And that's just been a really great experience, feeling more plugged into just the great network that we have here of people who are passionate about working on these kinds of issues. Another impactful experience that stays with me to this day was going to Patagonia Lake. Bryn and Kat probably remember, and we got to hear from the Patagonia Area Resource Alliance group. And she was speaking about a mining project that is happening in our county, in Santa Cruz County. And she asked, is anybody here from Rico and Nogales? What have you heard about the mine? And so I rose my hand, and it was just really eye-opening to me to realize that if you're not plugged into these networks already, things like environmental concerns, public health concerns aren't really at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So what I had heard about the mine was people were really excited. It was bringing jobs, and they've donated a lot to schools and to groups. And so just that little presentation that Anna gave us really sparked something in me to want to learn more about the effects of mining, and kind of realizing like, oh, I live here, and this will affect me, and this will affect my family, and this will affect my local ecosystem. And so that jump-started a journey of me working on a video series that will be bilingual to educate people in this community about, yes, they're bringing jobs, but here are the health impacts of public health. Here are the environmental concerns, public safety concerns. And so that to kind of get a taste of that through the Water Leadership Institute, start going to the meetings about it, and then kind of just informing my own networks. Like, did you know this is a risk of the mine, and things like that. And so I'm really excited to work on the video series. I've connected with a lot of people, activists, nonprofits in the area who are advocating for protections during this time. And so watch out for that. Hopefully it'll come out soon. It'll be bilingual, and my focus is to make it in plain language, because a lot of these presentations have very technical, scientific jargon that I struggle to understand sometimes. I go home after the meetings and kind of do my homework on it. And so I'm really excited to be able to translate that in a way that's accessible, that's in Spanish and English, and in a social media format, because I think a lot of people get their news that way. And so those are one of the many ways that the Water Leadership Institute has impacted just my relationship to this land, to our water, and to the amazing alumni that participated in there as well. I still have connections to them, and I still attend events that get sent out to us. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that professionally, it was just really great to see different ways that we can work in this sector and be able to make an impact and find fulfilling job opportunities or educational opportunities here in Arizona. So very grateful to Water Leadership Institute, to Kate, to Nieves, and to the other wonderful groups that planned it and that funded it. And I'm excited to hear from the rest of the alumni here. So thank you.
Thanks, Ali. I really appreciated getting to hear about how this experience helped you become even more connected to the area where you already felt connected to, but wanted to go deeper. So thanks for sharing about that.
Where do you teach the like cooking and nutrition classes?
I mostly teach them at a senior center in Nogales. I've also taught at the Boys and Girls Club. But yeah, that is another way that I feel like trying to do my part. We do like sustainable nutrition. So we partner with a local farm called Santa Cruz Farm. And so they donate the vegetables, and then I cook for them. And yeah, it's interesting kind of trying to stay culturally relevant and then include some of these local foods. And so that's been like a really great experience.
Yeah, that is a it's fun to kind of try to connect those dots that people don't always connect.
And I know you do some stuff with like food sovereignty.
Uh, yeah, I currently work at Plaza Mobile Market, which
Hmm.
Plaza stands for Promoting Local Arizona Agriculture. So we buy from local farmers, sell it at a discount through a nonprofit structure to South Tucson residents. Um, and it's kind of balancing a lot of things of that culturally relevant, but also this is what grows here, and this is maybe what will grow here in the future, and trying to introduce ingredients that are maybe not what you're used to seeing in the grocery store, but also very important to a lot of people in this area.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's interesting how all these issues like intersect with
Yeah.
like health and culture and the environment. So it's just really cool seeing that in action.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. I appreciate you. Up next, I'll hand it off to Cheyenne. Since the sun is setting for you, I want to go ahead and have you speak while the sun's out.
Yeah, thanks, Nevis. Contrary to what Ali said, as a local, my positionality is completely opposite. I am an international student in Arizona, and when I sort of heard about the program, I was like very curious because I was unaware, one, of the local situation, the local context, the landscape, the problems, as well as what the nonprofits were doing, because I was aware that nonprofits, particularly this transnational coalition of NGOs, had played like a key role in making sure that there were environmental flows that were released in the Colorado River back in 2014 through this binational agreement called Minute 319, and that was subsequently followed up through another minute, which is Minute 321. I think it's 323. But I was kind of, I just read it, in like papers and stuff, and I wasn't aware of like what they were doing really. So this was like the perfect place for me to experience that, particularly when I saw that, a lot of nonprofits had collaborated to kind of create this one of a kind institute, a leadership institute on water, specifically focusing on water. So that was my entry into the program. And wow, I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 full days of like, exposure visits and classes and so on. I wish there were more, but, even in those 5 days that we had over the fall term in 2024, it was wonderful, to go there on Saturdays and like attend these classes. I particularly remember two specific instances which really left a mark on me as particularly an international student, and trying to kind of gauge and understand the local context. First was uh, you know um, the uh, the lecture, or I mean the interaction that we had with Dr. Celso, now late Dr. Celso Villegas. And it was very inspiring, I must say, and particularly to find that he's remained committed and he's worked for the community, for that long. And I remember it was a hot day. In Tucson, I mean, you only get cool days towards the, end towards December. And we were, I think it was like our first or second lecture. So it was still pretty hot, and he had come and he was very tired, and but he was, his energy levels were still so high, and he narrated of his stories of him doing his PhD, and then like going back to his community, working with his community, helping to build trust. That was something which was quite revealing to me, the kind of trust deficit that exists between the native nations, the indigenous communities, and the government authorities, and how, he acted as like a bridge to not just help the community, but also to, build these relationships of trust. So that was very exciting for me, and I was really inspired by that. The second instance was, when we went to when we had this exposure visits towards the end of the cohort classes, towards December, I think. When we went to multiple sites, and we particularly went to this site, which is the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant, and that kind of really exposed me to what can be achieved, if there is some kind of a binational agreement, and how a situation of adversity, so they started with an adversarial position, wherein there were complaints of Mexico releasing wastewater into the US, and there were all these kind of things which were prevalent. But then that could be transformed, and how, by so I think in 2009 onwards, they kind of installed this wastewater treatment plant, and enhanced its capacities, and now the water that is being released from there is allowing the riparian ecology and the riparian habitats to kind of flourish there along the Santa Cruz River. So that was kind of another inspiring moment for me to know, what we can really do with the situation of adversity, and find those small nuggets, small pockets of opportunities in the most difficult of situations. So I took those two key lessons with me, and yeah, I mean, I am a PhD student, like Nevis said, and we have to like carry on. So that's what I did. I carried on, and I had to do my fieldwork. So and my fieldwork was in Eastern India. And that's where I went. Subsequently, of course, I finished my coursework, and that's where I went in 2025. So these are some of the snippets from my doctoral fieldwork in Eastern India. And my fieldwork were particularly at these two sites along the banks of the Ganges River in Eastern India. And I did a bit of it in 2024, and then the major chunk of it in 2026. So this is where Eastern India, this is like the location that I'm talking about, South Asia. So we share this river. This is a large river, and we share the basin with the countries actually. So there's China, there's Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India. And this is the delta that is the area of my focus. It's essentially, let's see. Okay, so it's essentially this triangle that you see over here. So that's what you have zoomed, in on the right of your screen. So this is the delta that I'm interested in, and particularly in this delta, what is of interest to me is this barrage. Oops, how do these go? I don't know. Anyway, so this is the barrage, and this is a legacy water infrastructure on the Ganges River. And a barrage is essentially the same as a dam, just that it cannot hold water. It just diverts water. So that's why we call it a barrage. And this has been diverting water, away from the river, from the main channel for like 50 years now. And in the last 50 years, there are a lot of, different kind of impacts that we get to see of the operation of this barrage. And what I did was I traveled to these upstream locations. So you see the barrage over here, and I traveled to these sites along the bank on the upstream to find out what impacts were there. And so these two are my sites. So this is immediately upstream of the barrage at a place called Malda, and then further upstream I went to this site, which is called Bhagalpur, which is further upstream. And guess what? Because the river has kind of been obstructed, and it's a very unnatural infrastructure that exists there. So these are large rivers, right? And when you obstruct them, they essentially become very dynamic, because there's a lot of silt accumulation that happens, sediment accumulation, and they start meandering. So this is just to show you how much the river has meandered. So this is satellite imagery of 1984, and this is 2026. So that's how much the river has meandered. And when a river meanders, essentially what it does is it erodes the banks, right? That's how it meanders, right? And when a bank is eroded, that means, people lose their lives, they lose their livelihoods, they have to move to temporary shelters, and it's a really, really poor situation. It's almost like a trigger to multiple aspects of impoverishment that the community experiences there. Uh, and like Nevis said, WLI and its focus, like pretty much that's what it is. These communities had no role to play in the decision making, yet they are kind of living with the consequences of this barrage that was installed without consulting them by government authorities, uh, about 50 years back. So these are kind of the remedial measures that they have in place, which hardly help. So you can see, this bank is about to like get eroded, and you can already see like cracks appearing in the building that exists there. And then there's this man sitting here, and this bank would also go erode. And on your left, this is what they do. They just dump these jute bags filled with sand, and that's supposed to like protect the bank, but it's just not adequate because these are like large rivers with large volumes of water, and during the monsoon, they become even more voluminous, so they carry even more water and they have even more power, to kind of erode. So that's the bank erosion situation there. But a river is not the river doesn't just erode; it also creates land, right? So this is a land that has been created that you see. Uh, you don't see vegetation here because this land has just been created. It wouldn't have existed maybe 5 years back. So these lands are also created, simultaneously. So on one side the river erodes, and on the other side new land comes up. But guess what? We don't have policies to kind of fix who gets to stay on that land, right? And there's a lot of gray area there. And there's a lot of illegal kind of muscle flexing and like encroachment and stuffs that go on. So there is no clear policy on what happens to this new land that emerges, and that creates a lot of problems, right, for the communities who have been displaced by bank erosion. But bank erosion is just one part of the problem of this barrage. What it also impacts is essentially it disallows fish migration, right? And there are a lot of communities, as you can see over here, who depend on fishing. And because the fish catch is on the decline, so they have to catch these smaller, fishlings, which are still not mature, but then, that's pretty much what's there, to catch. And that pretty much makes up for the loss of the livelihood that they are experiencing otherwise. So it's a sorry situation. And these are communities that live at multiple intersections of vulnerabilities, not just. So this is like a locality that you see inhabited by fishermen, fisher folk, but then they are also victims of bank erosion and flooding. So these are intersectional communities at the intersections of multiple vulnerabilities. Um, and this is how they kind of organize themselves, and they protest and they agitate, and they make their voices heard. And there are particularly two people's collectives that are very kind of active there. And my role as a researcher was to go to them and interview them, talk to them, and know the methods that they use to kind of voice their concerns. And this is how they do it. So they organize people, they create these demonstrations. So this is at the bottom of your screen is like a very unique way that they do, which is to like go out with boats and like create a statement, to make sure that the livelihoods of fisher folks are protected, and then they meet also and discuss. So and then another way of for them is to reclaim the river, and that's and how they do it is through this annual festival. It's almost like a festival where they have these paper candles, which they kind of float on the river, and a lot of children are also involved, and like they're very happy, as you can clearly make out from the pictures. And it's like an occasion for the community to come together to celebrate their river, their practices, and their culture. So that was exposure was really heartwarming and a wonderful opportunity for me to learn. And that's it. That's what I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Shine, that was amazing. I remember hearing a little bit about where you were hoping your doctoral experience would go, and I see that it's taking you in a very incredibly important direction. And something I was noticing in your research, which has been brought up already in our conversation, is the importance of like seeing how everything is just intersecting so much when it comes to culture, food, what you do to the river, is impacting in ways that you can see if you're experiencing it, but those who are making those decisions are not taking that into account. So it's been really incredible to hear about how WLI has mirrored in another part of the world, how you've been able to put those lessons into place and that they're very much mirrored. I think I just wanted to say that was really exciting for me to see, and also want to acknowledge how hard that work is. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for the opportunity, to talk about these stories. And I'm grateful to the people, to the communities I met, and for their willingness to
Mhm.
share these stories with me. Because of course, I mean, we share the same nationality, but my positionality over there as well is of a city dweller and like an outsider, right? So yeah, I'm also grateful to the people for sharing these stories with me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it really, like you saying that really reminds us of like the late Dr. Celso Villegas, reminding us that even if you are a member of that community, it takes the speed of trust regardless. And I think that's something I really appreciate about the Water Leadership Institute is that it really helps us practice that and then put that into practice, like with our own communities. And thank you for modeling that and how it's universal. It should be universal like practice. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I mean, it's just so fun to see and hear about the work and the stories being done at in other rivers that look like rivers, compared to the environment that we're working with here. And yeah, especially like the relationship that those fisher folk have and seeing they're the first ones to see when the fish aren't developing and they're not maturing. And, it's that hands-on relationship that really does dictate what needs to happen from there. And it's really special that, that's part of what you're focusing on. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate your comments.
All right, thank you so much. With that, I'll hand it off to our next presenters, Bryn and Kat.
If I start, one of the um like initial thoughts I was thinking about was that while I was listening to everyone, and I had been doing some organizing along the river with Angel, doing cleanups, stuff like that. One term that I was like talking to a lot of people about, just like on the buses and stuff, was I felt like I was having like young organizer imposter syndrome. Like I shouldn't be here. I'm not doing it right. Um, and I think that a lot of our like presenters, especially during Water Leadership Institute, just showing all the different ways to be organizers, all the different roles that like organizing involves, I think was really helpful to me. In like, yeah, like helping get over the like imposter syndrome and just like getting to the next steps. Um, I know one of the things we were talking about, like our different passions, like things that we're good at and how we can align with other people. I found this like in my personal life too, like even just like cooking with friends. Like some people's least favorite task is your favorite thing to do. I was making cookies with my friend and she was like, "Oh my gosh, can I crack the eggs?" And I was like, "I did not want to do that," but she gets so much joy out of doing that, you know? And how to like use that with organizing as well. And so my thing is always like I love talking. I love to talk. And I forget that a lot of people, that is not their favorite thing to do. Some people would rather cook, bring the food, and then I'll talk about it, you know? Um, and so with the River Resource Share, it was cool that Water Leadership Institute aligned with just a lot of other, I mean, there's always things going on politically, but for me, a big thing was when food stamps got cut in October of last year, because I work at a Title I public school in Tucson. I like was noticing a lot of the students, you know, talking about how hungry they were, talking about food, being stressed about it, even though they're little kids. Um, and I like worked with the custodian there, and she was supposed to throw away the extra food, and so she would put it in a trash bag and then put it in my office, and I would like hand it out to kids as they were going home so that they had, you know, that one more meal at least. And me just like sharing that story with people at WLI, you know, a lot of the I feel like a lot of the growth, I mean, the presentations and everything was amazing, but just like being in the same room as everyone that cared about the same things, like during lunches, during bus rides, I feel like I've made a lot of progress and just talking to people. And I was just like had time to like have my ideas of things I wanted to do. And I was telling people that like a lot of mutual aid groups run on the like the program is like every Tuesday at 6 p.m. or something like that. And a lot of people, especially people that are in school or work part-time jobs or retail jobs that like they don't get to choose their schedules, that kind of thing doesn't work for them. And so my first broad idea was just like, oh, a mutual aid group, but we just go whenever. Like we just have a group message and we'll say like, okay, who's free? Like I'm free this day, who else can come? Um, and I was nervous about it. And the more people I told, the more people were like really excited about it. And so I was like, okay, all I have to do is start it. Like people want to join. I know people will help if I just like get the word out. And so I like made a video just of myself. I was like walking to the bus stop, just talking. And yeah, now we go out like, I mean, this must have been, it was right before the last WLI session. So it must have been like late November, early December. And yeah, and now we go out like twice a month. We take turns. I feel like the first session was like a big thing, getting as many people to come and have that be like a training session. We packed hygiene kits together. I asked everyone, I was like, can everyone just bring one thing? I know like we don't all have money to make a bunch of hygiene kits, but if each of us can spend $10 on, you know, baby wipes, water bottles, whatever. And a bunch of people came, and just while we were packing the kits, we talked through like what are our missions, what are our goals, how are we going to make sure if new people join that they're on the same page as us, how are we going to make this like realistic? And then we also talked through what does each person think that they can contribute. And so I know like Angel said, like, okay, I don't have a lot of free time to be walking along the river, but like I can help with the admin stuff. And I hate admin things, and I was very grateful for that. And some folks really like cooking, and some folks really like just like organizing. Even some, I have one friend who like lives near the river, and she's very busy, does not have a lot of time, but she lets us store the stuff at her house, and that's super helpful. And so we were able to really, yeah, like figure out people's niches and how we can like fit together in that.
It's been about 6 months now, so it's kind of a little bit of a reflection point as well to see like, okay, yeah, it started small, and just in the last month or so, there's been a couple of events where we've had more people, and it's like, oh, okay, what do we do now that it's more than two of us and two carts? And like, oh, we can expand that out a little bit, and that came back to some of those original ideas that we talked about when it was first starting, of making it more than just a distribution as well, making it an opportunity to skill share, making it an opportunity to combine with other activities along the river. So we have enough people now to bring some trash bags and some trash pickers and clean up the river while we're also distributing. Um, and like Kat was talking about, those relationships, those conversations on the bus or at lunch, like those are now happening when we're walking as well. So there's kind of a few people that have been a little bit more consistent, and it's also nice when we have different people every time and they're bringing their perspective into the work as well. And every time it's a little bit different. And that is kind of what makes it special, especially for me and Mikey, who couldn't join us today, but she's been helping out a lot. Um, we're two of the people that are often in these spaces, that do not come from a background of these spaces. We're both kind of more people. I'm from hospitality. They've done all sorts of care work in hospitality as well. Um, so it's just an interesting perspective to be from those backgrounds and be surrounded by educators or people who are currently in education, all of the kind of environmental fields. And so I'm still waiting to like bridge that gap a little bit more of like, how do we bring all of these conversations into the same kind of thing? But having seen at least 6 months of that organic growth in this setting now has been really cool. And it's like, okay, it starts slow and that's fine. And it's going to build. And the more conversations that happen and the more opportunities that pop up, then the more we can build off those.
Yeah, last week, a couple weeks ago. Okay, broadly, last year for like right before the 4th of July, I remember it rained and I was like, oh, we should do a river cleanup because there's a bunch of stuff in the river. And I just posted it on my Instagram story, like, if two of my friends come, cool. Like I get to hang out with my friends, and that's that. And like 10 people came, and everyone was like, I just really needed to be part of community today. Like whenever and also celebrating the nation, like I want to celebrate our local community. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it again this year. And maybe I'll try doing like a trash cleanup and distro, and like, people can come to one or the other or both. Um, and a lot of people came. It was really cool. There was 3 people I had never met before that somehow saw this flyer I threw together and like were interested. Some of them came from like other mutual aid groups and stuff. Um, yeah, and it was cool. And they were also, yeah, some of them educators, some of them from like outdoor, more like environmental work, and just like friends of friends. And it was cool to see, yeah, to keep building. Like we added a bunch of people to our like group message. They were all like, I would be super excited to like come again. Um, and I do think that, yeah, like if all I have to do is spend 10 minutes throwing together a flyer to get like this many people, we walked so far, we've had so many people, we handed out so much water, and everyone's like, oh, thank you for bringing us together. But to me, that's like the easiest part, like the walking, the finding the materials, like that's hard for me. But just like inviting people to do something. And I guess that's the big thing, is that like so many people are just like sitting, like waiting for the invitation. Like they want to go out there, they just like don't know how to start. And yeah, I'm like, it was cool. I was happy to be the person to start it. And like, it was nice, like through WLI, like learning that like, just because I'm starting, it doesn't mean I have to be like in charge, or doesn't mean I have to be like responsible. I'm just getting people together, but we're sharing the responsibility.
Yeah. And it's exciting to see where it can still go from here as well. It's like we're building our relationships within the group. We are at a really special point where we see some regulars out on the walk as well, which is, bittersweet, but nice to be building trust and building relationship with the people that we are aiming to reach as well, and being able to, get feedback from them to guide what we're actually doing here. Hoping that continues to grow, to build relationship with the people who live in the area as well and get them more involved. like bringing it back to some of the original ideas as well, do more of like a big kind of communal day where we invite out some of the neighbors and some of the unhoused neighbors that we see and some of the people who've been helping out and to see what conversations come up and see how that can help guide it some more and bring more people into the circle.
Yeah, it's been nice to have the group to help me also like practice my patience. I feel like we talked about having something like that. The reason I chose the name of like resource share is like we're not only sharing like water and food, we can be sharing like education is a resource, time is a resource. Um, and that the idea is like, yeah, we can do other like, educational, we can serve the river in other ways, like picking up trash or learning about invasive species. And that we would love to like, yeah, combine handing out like food and hygiene resources with like other resources as well. And then we talked about this a while ago. And then I like feel confident that we will get there and I'm not like stressing myself out that we haven't done it yet. And talking about yeah, talking to more neighbors, getting more folks from like local businesses to help us out. And we've started and we're not, like totally there yet, but I do feel confident that we'll get there and like within our group, as the group grows as well, we can help, because that would be a lot to put on one or right now it's like I feel like three of us are pretty like almost always there. And there's, maybe five other people that are like sometimes there and like are around, are part of the group, but there's like three of us that are like always like on top of stuff. And I do think that like all of our goals would be a lot for three people and that we understand that like we just have to wait and grow and we will redistribute the responsibilities as the group grows and as we like just like as we see fit, I guess.
Even at the first meeting, we were like, okay, we'll do two this first month, and then from there, we'll do four a month. And we had to immediately adjust that. Like, that was a little bit too much for the amount of people that we have involved right now. And we hadn't built up any funds to keep purchasing things as well. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's okay that it can move a little bit slower and grow organically from there as it will.
I mean, I'm like always at the river anyway, doing trash cleanups with Angel, or like over the summer, I do research in the river with teachers. Um, and it just like is kind of my peaceful, like I'll just go down there if I'm having a day and I need to go draw or journal or something. But I remember after the last year's Fourth of July event that I like there's always people there, and we see them and we say hi and stuff. And like especially when I'm doing research and we're in the river with the teachers, sometimes like under the trees, there's folks living there. And so sometimes I would just, like swing by a store and buy some Gatorade or water. Like I'm gonna be there anyway. And that's kind of like why we do the rivers. Like we're gonna be there anyway. Like we might as well take a short walk. And like a lot of the times how the even if not that many people come, the whole distribution ends up just being a walk along the river with your friends. You kind of just like forget that you're doing like a service, I suppose, like you're just kind of walking along the river with your friends. Um, so I guess that's why the river we're there anyway. Yeah, because I think the goal is like to have more of the like collaborative events, like have it be a trash cleanup and a distro or like a education event and a distro and like combining more things since we're there already. So that was why there. And I also work in Barrio Hollywood, so I'm right by the river anyway. And so I see a lot of folks. I take the bus too, so I see a lot of folks like at the bus stops by the river. Um, yeah, so that's why there. And then the resource, yeah, the name I guess was because I wanted to be able to share more resources. All of us have, yeah, and I do think that that was like because of like Water Leadership Institute was like I like the idea of calling like time is a resource and like different, recipes are resources. And I just like the idea of like using the word resource more broadly, being able to do that. And I guess what brought me to Water Leadership Institute was I had seen, I mean, I know Kate and Yevis from grad school, but I had seen, like the infographics and stuff about it. And I honestly, at the very beginning, was like, I kind of organize already, will I, will I get what I need to out of this? Like, am I the right person to be part of a group like this? And both Kate and Angel were like, yes, definitely. Like, you should totally, like, you'll learn so much. And because I do, even though I do river and I like do the trash cleanups, I didn't know that much about groundwater. I didn't know that much about different areas of the river. And I did want to connect to more people. And like, I hardly knew anyone at the beginning of the trip, or I had seen them at like one or two river events. And so, yeah, I also think like getting to have these conversations with more different people rather than the same people that always come to me in Angels cleanups was also super awesome.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of a lot of these things happening at the same time that brought me into the loop. Getting involved with the Water Leadership Institute was very similar timing to going to Tucson Birthplace Open Space Walk and Talks, was going to Cat and Angels events with Reconciliación in El Rio. And the desire for me behind all of those was after being born and raised in Tucson and then leaving for about 10 years after high school and moving back was realizing I never really had relationship with land here. And relationship with land is relationship with water, and working in food doesn't exist in a bubble. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, and none of these things exist in a vacuum. They're all connected. So that was me trying to learn and grow in other areas that are maybe not directly connected to food, at least in the ways that I've worked in it so far, but kind of setting the stage and getting context for how they could work together better in the future. And then, of course, River Resource Share popped up, and it's like, oh, we're cooking, we're feeding people as well, and we're here at the river where we're already spending time. And it's another way, another layer of connecting those spaces that are very much not separate, but are also viewed separately a lot of the times. That's what kept me around.
Thanks y'all for sharing. I feel like a huge theme of today is just like the interconnectedness of everything. Yeah,
Ways.
always.
Can I jump in? Okay, so it was really heartwarming to hear, this initiative that both of you are doing, and it's just I just see this disconnect that people have with their rivers, these urban rivers, and there's a lot of work that has been done, research papers written on it. But it's wonderful to see, how you connect with the river, and particularly like how, Katrina, you said that, it just doesn't feel like work, it's something I love and it's my passion and I just do it because it's fun and, so it's amazing. And I would love to, come to one of your cleanups and events, So I'm going to be back in Tucson from September. So I would love to come, and check out, any of the events that you have.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Maybe when we start scheduling them more ahead of time, I could let like Kate and Yevis know to send out to more of the WLI folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah.
Even then,
Yeah.
there was about four of us from the 2025 cohort at the last distro, which was sweet.
Cool. And yeah, I'm wondering, Brandon, Kat, if anyone watching this recording wants to reach out to y'all with donations, or if they want to help y'all with the distro, who should they reach out to?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have an Instagram. It's River.
Yay.
I think it's just River Resource Share. Yeah. No spaces or
Yeah.
underscores or anything. River Resource Share. And then for our funding right now, it's just my Venmo, but I have made it. It's cat dash river, probably river share. Cat dash river share is the Venmo. That's where we're at right now. We have a Signal chat, and so if anyone wants to be added to it, they can just message us on the Instagram, I think would work. Does that make sense, you think, Bryn?
It would be
Yeah.
pretty cool if we could do like an alumni
Yeah.
cleanup.
Reunion.
I think
Yeah,
we'd get a lot of
yeah.
response, and we'll do it whenever Cheyenne's back in town. That way,
Yes,
yeah,
please.
we can. Yes, we'll plan that and make sure that you can stay involved and let us know again when you land, and then we can meet up with you.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great idea. Yeah,
we can do an alumni specific
Good.
distro. I think that'd be really
Yeah.
great.
I think we've also been reached out to from someone from Tucson Clean and Beautiful about doing a like post-monsoon cleanup distro combination, same idea. So we'll share details of that as well whenever we have them.
Awesome. So cool. I think my final comment is, Kat, I love how you mentioned that to start something, you don't have to be like the one doing everything. It's kind of about just getting started, like finding those like strong points within the group you're working with and how to collaborate and work together. That was really powerful. So I think you tap into something people are like, oh, I have to start something, I have to know everything XYZ, but if you can start, you can like build it together. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about that a lot, especially the last Leadership Institute session, where like how all of us, of course, are like the type of person that would sign up for this type of thing is we're hard workers, we're often overachievers, have a hard time asking for help. And I think that even like rewording it sometimes is like, instead of like, it's not that you need help, you can want help and not need it. And that's okay too. And you can also, yeah, delegating things, you can share. And that's why like River Resource Share, we're also sharing, you can share responsibilities. That's another way to reword it in the like, yeah.
100%. And I also really appreciate, Bryn, you mentioning how you were, born and raised here, you left, you're coming back and you're coming back with intention. I think that resonates a lot for me, as someone who hasn't lived where they've been born for a while and leaves, to find a career, experience new things, learn something new, and coming back. I think I really admire your dedication to saying, I'm going to learn and be intentional and form a relationship here, and how that's informed your path and your water leadership story when it comes to food and being there for others, and that's being your background. So thank you all so much for sharing your perspectives, your stories, and helping us to collaborate, have stronger relationships with all of us that are here for the same goal, and that is for taking care of our environment, taking care of our rivers, which in turn helps us create a better world, simply said. So thank y'all so much.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Thank you.
Thank
wonderful.
y'all.
Thank
Thank y'all. Have
you.
a great rest of your week. I really appreciate all of you.
You too. Good to see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.